we will be monitoring them and we will be addressing the questions. One simple housekeeping request, I would say, if you have a question, if you don't mind, if you are talking about a school question, if you don't mind saying if it's a Duval or St. John's or charter, or if it's a healthcare or medical related, just mention that in the chat or the question, so it's easy for us to refer that question to the appropriate panelists. With that being said, we are all get set ready to kick off this event. I'm going to turn this over to our president, Papa Rao Garu. If you don't mind unmuting yourself. And to you, sir.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I would like to welcome all the participants, attendees here for TAJA Safe Returns to School Experts Opinion webinar today. And I would like to first thank the experts on the panel, Malika Garu, Vandana ji, Deepa Patel ji, and Dr. Prashant Reddy Garu, who took their time and will be answering all the questions that you would have. And I would like to also thank the sponsors for this event, Mathnasium, and also the Fountain of Beauty. And also special mention to Shankar Kuppagaru. He's our treasurer in the committee, and he's the one who came up with this idea and worked very hard, pulling together all the experts on the panel and making sure, prepare all the questions and everything, which would be very beneficial to all of you. And in addition to that, I would like to thank all the organizations, ICS and HSNAF, JTM, and Shirdi Sai Society, who, they all communicated about this event to all their subscribers, and all the community portals, Facebook groups, who spread the word about this event to the Jacksonville community. And I hope, during this difficult time during the pandemic, events like this, coming from TAJA, we are very proud from the committee standpoint, helping the community, not only Telugu community, but the entire Jacksonville community. And we started off with the immigration seminar to help all the people with immigration questions during this difficult time. And the same here with Safe Returns to School, where parents are really stressed with sending their kids to schools, and wanted to talk about all the options. So with that said, thanks again to all the attendees, speakers, sponsors, and committee members. And I'll hand it over to Shankar Kuppagaru to take over and start this event.
Thank you, Papa Garu. Welcome, everybody. It is an interesting time for us that we are finding ourselves in this whole COVID, staying home, sending kids back to school. So as a parent of a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old myself, I had maybe 3 headfuls of questions that we wanted addressed, and I bugged a whole bunch of people, to which the panelists agreed. And we have put together a good presentation so that all of us can come onto a common base. And I'll allow the panelists to introduce themselves and stuff. So I'll share my screen and get started with an initial disclaimer, and then take it from there. You can see my screen, right? Just confirming.
Yes, you're good.
Right. Okay. So the objective of this session is for us to come together as a community and help each other in figuring out what it means to take our children back to school. There are many, many, many perspectives each of us has, a lot of which are individualized, but there are things that everyone who is on this meeting, I'm pretty sure, has thought about, which others might or might not have thought of in the same level of depth. Some things bother a few people more than others. But at the same time, we want to come to a common empathetic understanding. That is, let's see what it will take for us as parents, the kids, and most importantly, what it will take, the teachers, and what it will take to make sure that our children and teachers have a good, loving, continue that loving relationship while they're learning, while the kids are learning. The idea is not to recommend specific options, but actually to bring about the topics and the considerations that we have that before we make different decisions or different ways of conducting ourselves through the course of the next few terms. Please note that the ideas and the opinions, views, etc., that we are discussing today are those of experts and individuals. However, they are not made on behalf of the public school boards or of any of the charter schools, or for that matter, the American Association of Pediatrics or any medical organizations and the like. They are still individual opinions. And if you are looking for anything specific, please speak to your doctor or to your school board for exact advice on your specific case. Having said that, as you can see, as recently as Thursday, we found decisions being made or decisions being suggested, honestly speaking, not to mention governments at various levels have not really decided on the best course of action because of the rapidly changing situation. So let's think about different scenarios and try to help each other in preparing ourselves for the best. When it happened in March, we were all caught unawares. Now we have had a little bit of time to think it through, and let's make sure that we are doing the best for our children that we can. Many resources that we as a panel have collected and that are being made available to us by different sources, as well as the comments and the discussions of this particular meeting, we'll make available on the TAJA website. So please keep your eye out, and let's continue to stay in touch even after this meeting. Having said that, I will turn the screen over to, or turn it over to the panelists. Ms. Malika, if you could please introduce yourself.
Good evening to all. So I'm Malika Gurukula. So I did my master's in math in Padmavati University in India. I have college teaching experience in India, and in USA I have been working as a math teacher from last 4 years, and I'm teaching in algebra and geometry. And me and my family is are very active in TAJA activities, and so we are so glad to be in TAJA team.
Oops. Let's see. Ms. Deepa? Ms. Deepa, can you?
Yes. Good evening, everyone. My name is Deepa Patel. I have been a resident of Jacksonville for last 20 years. I'm also a veteran teacher of Duval County Public Schools, middle school English teacher for 18 years. And I'm very passionate about what's going on as far as learning, teaching, community, education, everything is concerned. And thank you so much, TAJA, for this opportunity where we come as a community to discuss, you know, the major thing that's happening in our community. Thank you.
Perfect. Ms. Vandana, can you please introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. I, like, you know, the lovely ladies before me said, I am just grateful to have this opportunity to come together and speak to all of you. As far as, you know, this platform, I think it's important for me to speak on two different levels. I am a teacher, like, you know, my fellow colleagues and before Dr. Reddy goes, just wanted to kind of say that I'm also a mother. So today when I speak, I'm cognizant of, a parent's role, but I'm thinking more specifically as a high school teacher. I've been with Nice High School now for about, this might going to be my 7th year in the St. Johns County. And I, of course I love my children and I absolutely adore my students, but I also am intimately aware of how a classroom functions. So my goal today is to ensure that I share as much as I can an insider's perspective on what this pandemic means in terms of when we think of a classroom. So that's primarily what I'm hoping to be able to share. I definitely feel that it's important when we speak about something unprecedented like this situation, people before me indicated, it's important to recognize that these are some of our informed opinions that we're expressing, but I'm here not only to share, but also to learn from all the lovely, panelists we have, from the organizers, from the participants. So I'm here, again, in a twofold way, to speak, but also to learn from all of you. So thank you again for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for being a community.
Dr. Reddy, if you could please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Prasanthi Reddy. I'm a pediatrician here in Jacksonville. I was trained and I grew up in New York, and I've been practicing pediatrics for the last 20 years, 16 of them in Jacksonville. I'm the founder and medical director of Rainbow Pediatrics Center. We have a couple of offices in Duval and St. Johns County, and we have about 15 providers in our practice. We've been a proud sponsor of TAJA for many, many years now, but this is a topic I'm intimately involved with, because not only do parents seek medical advice as far as like what to do with their kids, sending them to school, but we are also the ones who diagnose and treat COVID in children, and we have. And so I think that gives me that unique perspective in seeing the world from both sides. And thank you for including me in this panel. I appreciate the invitation.
So thank you so much to our wonderful panelists. We have discussed a lot of different ideas and about how we should go about this forum. And we felt the best way we could do this is by setting ourselves at a base. And Ms. Malika and the other panelists, everybody, we all got together, and Ms. Malika is going to go through what our core options are and how they are specialized, and then we have a short presentation before we jump into the questions. So if you don't mind, I'll go back to sharing my screen. Oops. And Ms. Malika, over to you. You can. Yes.
Okay, so before starting, thank you for giving me this opportunity for Papa Garu and TAJA team. Today I'm going to share some of what are the options in the Duval County and what are the safety measures to return to school our students. The first one is, so after the last Thursday, after the board meeting, some announcements are, so the starting date was moved to from August 10th to August 20th, and they extended the deadline for the registration for the homeroom action to July 31st, 2020. And to register for the homeroom actions, the parents need to create their parent focus account. So if the parents didn't do that so far, so they have the directions. Once they go in duvalschools.org, they will get the directions to create the parent focus account. Once they create the parent focus account, they need to call the school. They will help you to link to your child account. So next slide, please. So we have the options. We have in Duval County, they are giving from elementary to high school, elementary, middle, and high schools. They gave the 3 options. The first one, option 1, is different from elementary, middle, and high school. The option 1 for elementary school is face-to-face instructions. The students who are in elementary, they need to go to full week, which is 5 days from the first day of schools, and only early release days only they will learn from home. On those early release days, school will be deep cleaned. Next slide. Okay, the option 1 is for the middle school is the start. Options 1 for the middle is start with the hybrid to face based on the grade levels. And for the 6th graders, they will go 4 days to school, which is Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. The remaining Wednesday, they will learn from the distance learning from the current school. So, and again, 7th graders, they will go 3 days, which is Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and the remaining 2 days, they will learn from the distance learning from home. And the 8th graders, the other 3 days, which is Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, the remaining 2 days, Monday and Thursday, they will learn from the distance learning. And who choose the option 1, which is hybrid now, after September 14th, they will shift to 5 days in school option. The high school is also option 1, starts with the hybrid model. And again, this is 2 days per week based on the current grade levels. So this 9 and 12, which is Monday and Thursday, the remaining grades, the other 2 days. The remaining 3 days, they will learn, they will do home learning. And the same thing, which who are choose the option 1 for the high schoolers, after September 14th, they will shift to a 5-day school option. The option 2 is the same thing from elementary and middle and high schools. This is the dual homeroom options. So in this is a full-time distance learning. Even though they are doing the distance learning, they will do the same. They will enroll in the same current school. And for each end of each grading period, the students have the opportunity to switch to face-to-face learning. If any students want to do, if they are doing any on the first 9 weeks, if they are not comfortable, so for each grading periods, they have the opportunity to switch to face-to-face learning. So in this home learning, students are learning, will participate in the live sessions, how they are doing it, if they are going to school, how they are learning from their teacher, same thing, they will participate in the live sessions from their teacher. And they will follow the normal daily class schedules. And the last March, we are doing some different schedules, but now even though there is a dual homeroom, now they are following the normal daily class schedules, and students need to log in their class online during the normal class timings. How they are getting the schedules, the same, they need to follow same schedules and with the timings. And the option 3 is also the same thing for elementary, middle, and high school. So this is dual virtual instructional academy. This is completely different from dual homeroom. This is an yearly commitment. Once any student choose this option, they can't come back in mid of the year. So then the seat will be cancelled from their current school. But however, the seat will remain. If they want to come back to their current school, the seat will remain for them in the school 21-22 school year. So now, so I'm going to show you, so what is the difference between dual homeroom, dual virtual instructional academy. So dual homeroom is the same teachers, how their current school teachers, they will learn, they will do this, teachers will be the same from their school. The students is which school they are attending, they will get the same teachers. Whereas in the DVIA, so they are the different teachers from the regular teachers. They will have the particular, special training. So from how they need to do the online instructions, they have the special training teachers in DVIA, and they will follow the normal school schedules. But whereas in the dual virtual, so they have the curriculum, they already design in the online learning. So students need to learn from the self-paced learning here. So there is no need, there is no teacher to guide them. But here, Duval Virtual, we have the option. So we have the centers from the, if some centers, if any students want to learn from one-on-one, they want to get any instruction from the teacher one-on-one, they have the special centers. They need to go and they can go, they need to learn that. But every day they can't see the teachers, they can't learn from the teachers. They need to learn from the self-paced learning here. So on the next one, this is the learning, distance learning with the live sessions. Even though it is a dual homeroom is also in the distance learning, but here they will learn with the live sessions. How the teachers are doing in schools, they will follow the live sessions from the school teachers. Whereas in the DVIA, so they are using the special learning platform for all the courses which are available in 24/7. So the students can go and they can log in and they want to finish their course before any time they have the opportunity. They have the special learning platform for all courses. They have the availability on 24/7. But here, so for the school, they will learn, whereas in the dual homeroom, so they need to follow the school timings. So the next one, they can, so the students who are choosing the dual homeroom, they have the opportunities to choose their options for end of each grading period. But whereas in the DVIA, this is an yearly commitment. Once they choose, once they enroll in these options, they need to wait until the next year, which is 21-22 year. This is yearly commitment, so they can't go back, they can't switch to each option for any grading, end of any grading period. So again, for the high school, for high school students, the credits, whatever they are getting, the credits also transferable if they want to choose any option for any end of any grading period. Whatever the credits they have, for example, any IB students and AP students, and there is no impact on their credits once if they choose any from any option to another option. So whereas in the dual virtual, credits needed to be finalized within the DVIA. This is very different from our DCPS. This is whatever they are learning options. This is within the schools, but they are doing in distance learning. But even this is both are distance learning. The dual homeroom is within the schools. We are doing connecting with our current school, and dual virtual is completely, this is then out of, I mean, this is other than the DCPS. There is no connectivity in DCPS. And about the transportation, so any students who choose the option one, which is face-to-face instructions, they need to register for the their children to their bus riding through their parent focus account. So for that, they need to after choosing any option, if they choose any face-to-face in option one, so they need to register their children to ride the bus in parent focus account. And after August 13th, so if they go back to their parent account, they can see specific bus number, bus timings, and bus stops. So these are the safety measures, how they are doing, how the DCPS are providing the options for the safety measures in the bus riders. The students who are riding the bus, they need to wear the mask because we can't maintain the social distancing, which is not, I can say it is not possible, the social distancing. So the students wear mask when they are riding the bus. And again, the hand sanitizers must be used when getting on and off the bus. So every time they need to maintain the safety. So they need to use the sanitizers when they get in on the bus and get off the bus. And students, if any students have any medical conditions, or if they are not able to wear the mask more than a time, so they have the flexibility. They may wear the plastic face shields, but anything they need to wear better to maintain the social distancing. And buses sanitized each day. High touch points means any bus handles and any seat handles every day they will sanitize each day between the trips. And these are the safety measures once the students are entering in the building. So once they enter in the building, so students, the temperatures will be taken once they enter in the building after getting down from the buses. So, and again, sanitizer stations will be placed in multiple locations in the schools, and social distancing need to maintain. So once they enter and in the hallway before going to classrooms in the hallway, and this year they are not maintaining in the lockers, so to avoid the more crowd in the hallway. So in the middle schools and high schools, they are not doing any lockers this year. So so they need to maintain the social distance once they get in, once they finish their temperature checking, and they need to use the sanitizers, and before going to the classrooms, and they need to maintain the social distancing in like a 6 feet distance, and they need to wear the mask in the school environment throughout the 8 hours. They need to wear the mask, especially in the crowded area. Once they come in from the classroom, in the hallway, or before going to the cafeteria or any crowded place, they need to wear the mask throughout in the school environment. And students must use their sanitizers and also wash their hands thoroughly. How they are doing these safety measures in the classrooms? So they are doing the socially distanced student workstations and workstation sheets. So plastic face shields for the younger learners. And so here for the elementary, particularly for the elementary students, so instead of wearing the mask almost 8 hours in the schools, if they have any students, or not only in the elementary, so any students have any issues with wearing the mask the almost 8 hours, so they are using the plastic face shields. And for elementary schools, they're planning to give the barriers at the tables to maintain the social distancing. And again, personal protective equipment and sanitizers. So teachers also providing their, teachers also taking care of to washing hands before leaving, getting to the classroom and before leaving to the classroom. So they need to make sure each students need to use sanitizers and bathrooms. They need to care about the students, and school will be taking steps, minimize class changes, like control directions flow off in the hallway, like they're so like I said, so this year we don't have any lockers for the middle schoolers and high schoolers to avoid the too much crowd in the hallway, because in the students are having lockers. They need to stop and they need to get their stuff from each period, in between each periods. So they need to stop. They will stop in the hallway and to get the stuff. So to avoid that, so they are taking the steps to minimize the class share, controlling the flow of in the hallway. So they cancel. They are not using the lockers this year. So in the cafeteria, I can say this is also not possible. So, I mean, this is not possible to maintain the social distancing. So because even though, it's not possible for the social distancing in the cafeterias, but we are doing, so we are giving some instructions to the students. So when they are waiting to line, when their students are waiting to receive their food or any buy for the food, they need to wear the mask, or if they are not comfortable to wear the mask, so they can wear the plastic sheets. So it is very important to maintain the social distance. So they are giving some particulars, so they are planning, but so far, unfortunately, we are not getting any particular information, how they are doing, how they are maintaining in the cafeterias. But so far, as per our information, so we are, they are maintaining some distance there, and they are doing some locations, so some places, they are deciding some spaces. These are the seat for the students to maintain the social distancing in the cafeteria, and they are doing multiple locations. But this is not from the DCPS. They are giving the instructions to do the multiple locations. So instead of the only cafeteria, only one room, so to maintain the social distancing, they are figured out, they are doing that. So to do the cafeteria, the timings, to do the multiple locations to maintain the social distancing in the students. But in the breakfast, so some schools, they don't have any enough space, or any they can't maintain in multiple locations. So in this situation, so they are servicing, they are doing breakfast and lunch hours, lunch also in the classroom to the students to maintain the distance. Okay, so I think, can you go back to the before slide, Shankar Garu? Okay, these are the safety measures our DCPS and our school, so far as per our DCPS, these are the safety measures in school in different areas. But these plans may change based on the school's availability and resources. And again, our DCPS and our school administrations are working to give as much safety as possible to our students, teachers, as well as the staff. And again, thank you for giving me this opportunity, Papa Garu and TAJA team, and thank you all.
So, as what Ms. Malika said, a lot of these things have been well thought about, and a lot of what she presented actually are applicable to St. John's as well. And I'll allow Ms. Vandana to talk further about that part. Ms. Vandana, if you could please unmute yourself.
All right. Hi. So I think Ms. Malika did a great job in explaining pretty much, in essence, what we're doing as a school district that I'm aware of. Now, as we said earlier, things are so fluid at this time, and they're constantly changing every single day, every hour. And I can say, because I've attended every single county, the town hall that they've been conducting, the school board meetings, and I know that all schools, and I'm assuming it's the same for Duval, is that, the school, the board, the teachers, people, they're all working diligently to make it as comfortable, as safe as they can, but things are changing. So a couple of things that I did want to say is pretty much St. John's County mirrors what what we just heard about Duval. The terminology might be a little different. So the slide that you just put up, it kind of indicates that. I was taking some notes when Ms. Malika was talking. I think what we call a Duval homeroom is what's option 2 in front of you. That's the school-based distance learning. Option 3 would be the St. John's virtual. And then you do see an option 4, which is home ed. But that's a different ballgame altogether. Of course, if you have specific questions, then you could reach out and kind of get more information. But I do want to take a quick second and reiterate what Ms. Malika was saying about the second option and the third option. In the second option, the school-based distance learning, I think what's imperative for a lot of parents, like myself, who are, let's say, going for that option, to recognize that it does require incredible amount of participation at home, because the distance learning will mirror, at least that's what they're hoping to do, in-class teaching. And again, I'm happy to clarify if somebody has a question, but what the point is that you are at the same pace as you would be if you were in a brick and mortar situation. So it does require, obviously, that parental, if they're older children, their own time set aside for that particular day's learning, and then the semester expectations will all match. For option 3, which I am speaking, of course, very broadly, as I don't teach in that system, is that for St. John's virtual, you are on your own pace. So as Ms. Malika said, even for Duval, it's the same, that you are working with a self-paced curriculum, which might, be better for someone if it's not possible for a variety of factors for them to be available every day, or for a student to have access to maybe a computer, at that given time. So I mean, there are so many layers and so many considerations that I know that each family will, is probably looking at, because we're all working from different perspectives, as we established, when we were talking earlier. I also wanted to say, something that's also available on probably individual counties or school boards' website, is that if you look closely, it says that there are two models to school-based distance learning. This information is available on the St. Johns County website, and you guys are, if interested, you can look at it. There are two models they are suggesting for option 2. One is called a simultaneous instruction, and the other one is called a distance learning cohort. So the first option, the simultaneous one, or I think they're also calling it synchronized model, is assuming, and again, a lot of this, we are yet to return to school, even for teacher planning. So we haven't really received a lot of information on how all of this would be implemented. So I'm only speaking based on what I know as of now. Is in that synchronous model, as a teacher, I understand that we're expected to do a live teaching. So students who are opting to be in the classroom will be with you, and then through Schoology or other digital platforms, we will be then teaching those students who are taking the same class, however they're doing it from their own living rooms, if that makes sense. So that is the synchronized learning, where somehow they are participating live from their homes while I teach a specific group of students in a classroom. Again, we're yet to see the details on that. A lot, with technology, as many of you probably know, we just don't know until we know. So we'll see where we go with that, but that's what the intention is, and I'm sure they're doing everything to make that happen. However, the distance learning cohort, I think there the intention is that a specific teacher for a specific period would be working closely with certain students for that specific course while they are truly working in that distance environment, and it's not like a live session happening with kids at school. So, I mean, there are, of course, details that need to be looked at, but that's primarily what the two options are under a school-based distance learning. The county also states that the principals can decide which model to choose. So based on, again, we don't know a lot, but based on what I understand for my school, let's say, is that there was a mention of the synchronized model, is what I'm seeing when I see the updates that Nice High School has put out, let's say. So again, all these specific questions, I'm not unfortunately capable to answer that, but you are certainly welcome to contact your respective schools or the county board. They're all there to support us, to kind of know which option would work. And then one more thing I want to quickly add to the distance-based learning. I gather from all the information that's shared in the school board meetings and through other forums that I've attended, is that not all courses are offered through distance learning. So that is something which parents, and their children, and what courses they need to take or should be taking, that would determine what they would decide, whether a course is offered or not. I think, again, the school would be, able to talk about that more, and then we have to make a decision that fits our needs and our children's specific needs. So those are just some things I thought I'll add. But other than that, pretty much most of what Ms. Malika pointed out is what I understand to be true as far as safety precautions go, because we're all following, at the end of the day, the same platform of basing our decisions on the CDC guidelines and the AAP recommendations. One last thing I want to say is, in the St. Johns County School District protocols, if you look closely, there is one particular statement which says, and I quote, students, they will not be required to wear face coverings if able to social distance in the classroom. And I just want to, and we can speak more about it later, but as a high school teacher, I am imagining my own classroom and any other classroom that I can imagine. I am not certain if social distance learning is truly possible without the mask. So that is something I just at least want to say. I can't speak for what in reality the school would look like, but I'm sure Ms. Deepa on the panel can speak to that, Ms. Malika, but I know that I have never been in a classroom where desks have been 6 feet apart and still be able to fit the number of students, you know, that we do get in our classroom. So just something to kind of at least consider. I wanted to make sure I say that. Again, things may look different. I haven't received anything specific, but I'm hoping for the best and the most safe environment for our students. Thank you again for the opportunity. That's kind of what I thought was a little bit, you know, different with the county that I'm working in.
Shankara Garu, I don't know if you have certain things lined up, but there was a question about the mask that was just posted. If you want to take that or you want to take it later.
Yeah, can we we have a couple of more slides to go through, and then we'll start taking questions, if you don't mind. So,
no worries.
So now that we know what both the school districts are doing, we have one small slide that Ms. Deepa will go over with respect to the charter schools. Ms. Deepa, if you could please unmute yourself.
Okay, so as far as charter schools are concerned, this information I got from a teacher friend of mine. She is a teacher, she teaches middle school, and this is the information that I got from her. So it's basically very similar, very, I think it's like, you know, St. Johns County and Duval County, but it's very close to Duval County, where the students are required to wear masks or face shields, and hand sanitizers are installed throughout the school, water fountain changing to water bottles refill stations, toilets being changed to auto flush. That was something very interesting. And enrolling in Florida virtual school, you know, if basically it's the same thing. If you choose, you know, if you choose to go to virtual school, you have to withdraw the child from the charter school. So it's a whole entirely different program by itself. So these are, I think, the key differences, the main differences that we see between the Duval County and the St. Johns County. It's kind of similar, but something very specific to what's mentioned here.
Perfect. Thank you, Ms. Deepa. And I'm sure you'll talk and you'll be able to guide us a lot more as we work through the questions.
Sure, thank you.
We have Dr. Prasanthi Reddy also with us to help us give a medical perspective and talk about the safety and everything else from a doctor's perspective. So Ms. Dr. Prasanthi, if you could please, Dr. Reddy, if you could please unmute yourself.
Yep. Thank you. I mean, I think this is a mountain of a topic, so I'll do the best that I can. I want to first clarify, in fact, kids can get COVID. Let's first put that out there. Yes, the symptoms are much less severe and the kids seem to do okay for the majority of kids. And there's always outliers in that situation. So there is a risk for kids going to school. There's also a risk of them bringing it home and potentially exposing to other family members. So there is a definite risk, and we have seen cases of COVID in our practice, and so have other practices here in town. So we can talk some more about what that looks like in kids, but I think the pressing issue here is, in light of school starting, what should parents do? And this is a question that our practice gets a lot. And so I came up with sort of a decision tree to help parents come to a conclusion that might best suit them. Now, there's a famous saying that says, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Okay, there is no perfect plan here. Everybody is just doing the best they can. And I have to commend St. John's and Duval County School Board for at least coming up with a sound plan. We can't predict what's going to happen in a week, much less in a month or 2 months with COVID. This is something we're all figuring out as it goes along. So there is no perfect answer. So it is a decision you have to make as a parent for your own family and for your own child. Your neighbors or your friends' decision may be completely different, and that's okay. There is no right answer. And so we shouldn't be quick to decide that they made the right choice and I made the wrong choice or whatnot. You don't know the situation for for every family. So real quick, it looks a little complicated, I know, but I'll walk you through this decision tree. I think the first question every family needs to ask is there an immunocompromised child or an adult in the home? Anybody that's truly ill, whose health may be at risk. If that is the case, then we're going to go to the left side and say, okay, immunocompromised child or parent is there. I would seek advice from your physician and see if this condition is enough to warrant exclusion from school. If that is the case, then we're going to look at only the virtual options. Within the virtual options, parents need to decide. I mean, there's lots of other factors in this, but I think the most pressing one would be, how rigid a schedule do you want? Is it, are you able to sit with the child depending on the age during the regular school hours for the virtual school, or do you need flexibility in that? And where I put Florida virtual school, St. John's virtual school, it's also the Duval equivalent. If your child is cleared or you're cleared, then we have to ask the question, can the child learn virtually? There are many kids who cannot learn virtually, either because of their age, or they have behavioral issues or ADHD, or they have technology issues. I mean, we have a family of 9 with 2 computers. It's not possible to do school-based virtual learning, right? So if that is not an option, then the parents should pick the brick and mortar option. I put brick and mortar / parents' choice because at the end of the day, it is the parents' choice. I'm not saying brick and mortar is the only way to go, but that is an option that you can consider. If your child is capable, old enough, and can learn virtually, then the next question to ask is your child dependent on school services? There are lots of kids who depend on schools for school lunches. That's the only meals they get. Or therapy services. Otherwise, they might fall further developmentally behind, and that is of huge consequence for the rest of their lives. Is there an IEP plan that cannot be implemented if the child is not in school? These are all considerations to take into account. If those are not relevant to you guys, then the next question to ask is, how are the guardians' work flexibility? Is there a parent that stays at home? Are the parents' jobs allowing them to be a little bit flexible? This is important because if the kids are going to be at home and the parents are the breadwinners, who's going to watch the kids? And again, there is no right answer. Unfortunately, even as a small business owner, I have to decide what to do with my employees too. And so it's multifactorial. But if your hours are not flexible, then you want to either have a brick and mortar option with a backup plan, and I'll explain why you need a backup plan with that if your job is not flexible to give your time off, or you do a virtual option with a nanny or another caregiver. The reason I say brick or mortar with backup plan is because there is not going to be any consistency that anybody can guarantee with the brick and mortar school. Right? COVID cases are going to go up. We know that it's going to go up. Classrooms or maybe even the school will have to shut down temporarily. So when we say temporarily, we're talking at least 2 weeks. Well, if your job is not flexible, what do you do in that situation? So I just want parents, and my favorite saying is plan for the unplanned, because you don't know. And so you don't want to jeopardize your job because of that. So just plan for that option. And then having said that, a lot of questions I get is also with kids, how do we know it's COVID? How do we know when to isolate? I can talk certainly a lot more about that, but I think it's a good idea for parents to check their kids' temperature every morning before they send them even on the school bus, or if you're dropping them at school. Yes, schools are going to test, but if the child has a temperature in the morning, anything over 100.4, it is best to just keep the child at home. If your child is not feeling well, just keep your child at home. You can always, of course, take them to your pediatrician or family practice doctor and have them looked at to see could it be something else. And if it is something else, it's easy. We can diagnose that, we can treat that, and that's what it is, and we can give you clear guidelines on when to go back to school. However, if we're not sure, then we're going to tell you to isolate for 2 weeks. Right, so this is a fluid state. Your child may not have COVID, but at this time with testing resources being where they are, it's difficult for us as pediatricians to know. And so if your child comes in with fever, there's no other source, we're gonna say, you gotta be isolating for 2 weeks. So these are all factors to consider. So I can certainly talk more about any one of those topics, but that's the overall perspective.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Reddy. So we have a bunch of panelists here, all who have thought through a bunch of scenarios, ready to answer your questions. The best way we are going to make this happen well and answer the questions you have is if you please post them, whether it's in the chart here, or if you want to speak up, just please raise your hand. Or if you're watching us on Facebook, please share your question with us on Facebook Live, and we'll make sure it gets to me and we'll ask. There's a whole bunch of people behind the scenes to make sure everything flows smoothly. Having said that, we received one question so far on Facebook Live, and that is keeping elementary students, especially so for elementary students, how is it best to talk to kids about face masks, face shields, and how do we ensure compliance? I mean, with an elementary school kid.
I can answer that.
Please,
I think I shared a resource too, and it would be a great one to share on the TAJA website on things you can do with younger kids, especially elementary school kids. In medical practice, even before COVID, we obviously had kids with cancer as young as 3 that we can train to wear masks and wear masks all day long. So it is definitely doable. The first thing is to talk to the kids about why they have to wear a mask without scaring them, right? Talk to them about it being the safest thing right now to protect you against germs. The second is set an example, right? If you're stepping out with your family, with your kids, wear a mask and show them that you wear a mask. Sometimes it helps if they have a little stuffed animal or a toy to also have a mask for that stuffed animal. It helps. Decorate it, take pictures of them in masks. That really takes the fear out of masks and it becomes the new norm. Kids adapt really, really well. So if you're anxious about it and saying, oh, this can't be done, then you might as well give up, because you have to set the precedent and come with it with a positive attitude that it can be done. If kids are trained over and over again, you talk to them about it, they see other kids wearing it, there is more likely chance that they will be more compliant with it. Are they going to do silly things with the mask? Of course they are. They're just kids. We have to do the best that we can in this scenario. But we recommend masks in our office for all kids over the age of 2. It's required after the age of 13, but we recommend 2 and up. And almost every child comes in wearing a mask. In fact, they're proud to show what a big kid they are that they can keep a mask on. So it truly can be done. You just have to talk to them about it.
Do any of the teachers want to give us some insight from a classroom perspective? Come on, Ms. Deepa, you can talk. Come on.
Sorry about that, but yeah, I think the students have to get used to wearing masks. I can talk from middle school point of view. Yes, it's going to be a challenge for students having that mask the whole day. I think it's very important for teachers and students to have that mask on. And as Dr. Reddy said, there are young children who go through cancer and they have to wear masks all the time. They get used to it, and I'm hoping that, our children also get used to this normal thing of and learn how important it is to wear masks to be safe.
Good point here. Ms. Malika, Ms. Vandana, did you want to add something, ma'am? Ms. Vandana.
I'm sorry about that. I was just trying to unmute myself. I am so glad that Dr. Reddy brought up the importance of our approach when we do something. You model. That's like a teacher 101. If I want my students to do something, I want to make sure that I'm modeling the right behavior. So I uniquely so, and maybe other people are in my situation where, of course, I teach high school. So I teach students who are almost adults. So they have their own, personalities strongly. They have their own opinions. Even though they recognize that they have a code of conduct or certain requirements to follow, but they also have their own perspective on things and viewpoint. So if we make it consistent and we lay out the expectations, I think all humans are capable of, doing the right thing, given the right tools. And there will be exceptions. But also I'm a mother of a 5-year-old. So I know that, we have had this lockdown sort of, at home sort of teaching. So I did utilize this time, like Dr. Reddy said, to make mask, for now at least, a new normal. We make it, we wear it, we have her wear it. So children are incredibly adaptable, like you said. And if you want, there are so many cute designs available for little kids and very cool designs available online that you could purchase for, our more cool high school students, but I also feel that one thing we have to recognize is that there will be certain challenges that happen in any sort of situation where, again, I teach high school. All students know what the rules are and the expectations are. But, and again, I go through 150 students every day for 180 days. So is it always 100% perfect? Not really. Will they all always do what you ask them to? Not really. So I think having a plan from a teacher perspective is important, but also as a parent perspective. So when we send our kids to school, maybe having those conversations and making sure that it's a shared responsibility. So kind of educating them. We don't always have to believe in something, but we do it for the larger good sometimes, And so those are some, I think, some conversations that we have to have as teachers, but also have to have as parents and just good citizens, like it's easier sometimes to have, high school kids follow things, I would think, but everything is doable. We just have to speak to them as if they can get it because they can.
Good point. Yeah. So, Ms. Malika, maybe you can take a portion of the next question. We got some questions regarding the mental stress that, basically, let me lay the context maybe a little bit. If it is too much for all kids to be stuck at home, and the question here is around the mental stress that we are going to cause to kids and to us ourselves as families also, honestly speaking. I'm facing it myself. And what can we do to help these kids go through these, get over the mental stress because of lack of physical interaction? Dr. Reddy, definitely we need your perspective from the medical side, no doubt about that part. But again, I also want the teachers to please weigh in and share the academic perspective, please. Dr. Reddy, you want to go first?
Okay. Am I unmuted? Yeah, this is definitely a question that worries a lot of parents. First of all, let's get this a reality check in that COVID will end, right? This will end one way or the other. We're going to have a vaccine. It is a matter of just this school year, most likely. It is all about how you set the precedent, right? If you are anxious about this process, the kids are going to be anxious about this process. If you are fatalistic about this, the kids are going to be fatalistic. It is setting that atmosphere for the kids is the most important thing. Now, you tell me what middle-aged kids and high school kids don't engage every day with their friends virtually before COVID started. This is their generation. They know this, they're comfortable with this. It is not anything different. You look at my 3 teenagers, they're on these virtual games all the time, talking to their friends, COVID or no COVID. The kids are used to this kind of platform. How do we balance the mental, the physical aspect of this is making sure that the kids actually get some physical exercise, making sure there's a routine in the home, and making sure you have a positive attitude about it in the home. And getting out and meeting friends is okay as long as you maintain social distancing. So I would select a group of trustworthy friends that you can do social distance friendly activities with. And that, you can make that judgment call. I'm not talking about having parties, but even riding a bike apart from a friend would be okay. Going for a walk, right? Going playing basketball, whatever it may be, with one or two friends would be okay. But it's important for the kids to get out and get some activity. That is going to be the key to keeping them mentally sane. But kids are adaptable. Again, it's not as terrible sounding as it might have been for me as I was a kid, because then you're really cut off from the world.
Ms. Malika, do you want to look at it?
Yes, just I totally agree with Ms. Reddy. So again, parents for the elementary school students, so they need to the parents need to have the more interact with them and engage with them in any funny games, like any math funny games, or which areas they have interested. So they need to spend more time with them, and they need to engage in the proper manner. And as Reddy said, the high school students, so they have their own worlds, they have more work. So as she said, even there is no any other situation, if there is a COVID or no COVID, so they have more work based on their work challenges also. So now, for example, my daughter is in 12th grade, so she has their own work and she has more work, so many activities are any preparing the SAT, so they have their own world, so they have more engaged. They don't have any free time. Okay, so even though there is no COVID also, they don't have any free time for the high schoolers. So in the middle school students perspective, so they always playing with the games instead of that. So even elementary, as per my view, so in elementary and the middle schoolers, so the parents need to spend more time. So they need to engage with them in any math games, or some students are having any reading activities. So they need to, if you go and search in online, so any other, instead of having any other any iPad games, so instead of that, so any math games, math funny games, as well as they will get the knowledge, as well as they get the fun, and they can spend the time, they can get the good time. So here parents always have spend more time with their kids, and they need to engage in the proper manner.
Ms. Vandana or Ms. Deepa, do you want to add something?
I think everybody covered it brilliantly, and I particularly love the bike idea. I mean, I love to bike, and I think that helps our kids get some exercise, get them out of the house. So, no, I think everything is covered per se for that particular question. Thank you, though.
I am getting another set of questions with respect to, especially for you, Dr. Reddy, about what symptoms what sort of symptoms you're seeing. But before you answer that question, if you don't mind, please, let's take a couple of minutes or a few minutes to thank our sponsors, and let's just hear that. So hang on tight, please.
All right, thank you, Shankara. So we have two sponsors who are supporting our organization today. We do have Mr. Dave Mason with us. He is the Mathnasium of Fruit Co. Center Director and the owner. And Dave, I would like you to have you turn on the camera and unmute yourself. So thank you for your support. If you don't mind doing that. I gave you a heads up. There you go. Thank you. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, thank you for this opportunity to speak with you. Loving the seminar so far. For those of you who don't know, Mathnasium, it's a math-only learning center. It's a supplemental learning center. We develop, our focus is a fundamental math understanding, develop confidence and success in math. With the onset of COVID, Mathnasium nationally accelerated the rollout of our at-home web-enabled delivery. It really tries to mirror what's in center, which is interactive instruction. And we engage in one-to-one communication with the students via breakout rooms. We utilize Zoom. The important part is what we do at Mathnasium. It all starts with an assessment where it's a diagnostic tool that we identify any foundational gaps, any areas of focus or for enrichment scope. And we develop a customized learning plan to help the student understand math, to enjoy math, to catch up, keep up, get ahead. During the summer, math is one of the topics most prone for summer regression, and the spring school closures exacerbated that slide. A lot of our clients have enjoyed the fact that our at-home program, it's been a welcome option. It allows them to continue enjoying their interactive sessions from the safety of their home. We also are open in-center. We're maintaining distancing. We're all wearing masks, cleaning the surfaces regularly. We're there in whatever medium makes sense, whether it's in-center or again at the at-home for students. Again, we love math. It's about teaching math, and that's what we do. We do have several promotions going on through the summer. If anybody is interested in Mathnasium for your student, or like to recommend us anyone, I'm going to hold up a couple of numbers. This is our phone number, 904-287-2874. And this is our email address. And really with that, that's what I wanted to say. I didn't want to take a long time, but again, thank you for including me.
I like that, Mass David. Thank you so much for your support and to our organization, especially for this event today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Yes. Would you mind if it is easier to talk on this medium without it?
What grades do you support?
We support first grade through pre-calculus. We do take some kindergarten students, as long as they're mature. We usually, like the spring semester of the kindergarten years when people will start, as long as they can sort of, it's an hour-long session. They don't have to stay the hour, but to get the best value, we would want them to be able to focus for that time. Thank you. Was I on mute?
No, you're good, David.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Yeah. All right. We also have Ms. Rinku Patel from Fountain of Beauty Salon. It was open on the racetrack road close to St. John's Parkway. She is not able to make it to the meeting, but a big thank you to her and wishing her good luck with her venture. With that, Shankara Garu, I will turn it back to you.
Perfect. A big thank you to our sponsors. And now back to our questions. So the specific question that we were looking at just before we heard Dave talk was about what symptoms are we seeing in your practice, Dr. Reddy, for kids with COVID? And also a secondary question along with that is, how is the severity of those symptoms with for children with special conditions like asthma? Like, do you have any data around that?
Yeah. I mean, those are very good questions. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of data about COVID in kids. We know it looks a little bit different than it does in adults. Depending on this, where you're looking, anywhere from 2 to 6%, some of the data say, of all COVID cases are actually kids less than the age of 18. It's unlikely in kids less than the age of 5. And then there was just a new study that came out last week from Harvard that said kids 10 to 19 are just as likely to transmit COVID to others as adults are. So in kids, depending on their age, the symptoms vary, the ability to transfer disease varies, as well as how they present. Most of the kids that we've tested have been kids who were potentially exposed to somebody with COVID. But even those kids some of them have tested positive. So that means there can be kids who are completely symptom-free and still test positive for COVID. What is their likelihood of transmitting that disease to others? That's still up in the air. But of course, we have to err on the side of caution and say, okay, yes, your child has COVID. That means you, as a parent, as family, have to self-quarantine. The symptoms, when they do have symptoms, can be anything from, I mean, there's a whole list of symptoms, but typical fever, cough, but we are also seeing vomiting, diarrhea, loss of smell, loss of taste. Sometimes we call them COVID toes. They're a rash on the toes and the fingers. There are a handful of kids who have had long-term complications from COVID, in that at some point they've had a mild or asymptomatic COVID, and 4 to 6 weeks later can present with a very severe inflammatory response. That can happen with any virus. So it's not like, oh, this is COVID specific, but we do know that it's linked to this virus. And as far as I know, there's been one child in Jacksonville with the multi-system COVID. But for the most part, I mean, you can, as parents for that one child, of course, that's your whole world. But for the most part, kids do fairly well. But kids don't live in a bubble. You know, if they have COVID, they're going to come home and they're going to expose others to COVID, their parents, their grandparents, others they come in contact with. So that's really, really important too. And I'm just going to throw this in there, is that we're talking about school and what school's doing to make sure we protect our kids. It begs the question, what are you doing as a parent to protect the school and the kids and the teachers? You know, if the kids are doing all of this social distancing and being careful at school, and then they come home and you guys are hanging out in large groups, well, you defeat the purpose and you're putting everybody at risk. So practicing social distancing and being careful and limiting your exposures when the children are not in school is going to give the schools the best chance of containing this. And then the other question was asthma. Yes, so it's a case-to-case basis. So I am also an asthma expert, and I run the asthma clinic in our office. And so lots of kids have asthma, but mild to moderate asthma should not exclude the kids from going to school if that is an option that the parents want to choose. There are some kids on high doses of steroids. In that case, they may be considered immunocompromised, and therefore that might not be an option. So it's a case-to-case basis, but mild to moderate asthma is not a contraindication for school-based learning. Now, there may be other factors, as I discussed in the chart, but this is something to consider. Mild to moderate, even severe asthma is not a case not to wear a mask. That's another question that parents often ask. My child has asthma, can they wear a mask? Won't they suffocate? They do not suffocate. They do not breathe in the carbon dioxide that they breathe out. It is safe to wear them. In fact, it is more recommended to wear the mask if your child has asthma. Okay. I think Vandana has a question. Yes.
Yes. Vandana, please go ahead.
I feel like that annoying child who has like a question every 2 minutes, but I'm so blessed that we have this forum. So I do have a question for Dr. Reddy, and I was hoping, that you will bring that up, about the data, and we don't have much on it, but here's my question, and pardon me, it's a little bit longer. I have been following very closely. I have a child who has asthma and was hospitalized last year. She's 5 years old. Of course, I'm pretty much in sync with what you said, but my question is about the data. So one of the things I have been following very closely is this narrative, of children. We don't have much data on children. Do you feel that could also come from the fact, and right now I'm speaking as a parent, but I'm also speaking as a teacher of those hundreds of kids that I teach. I know that we went into lockdown for our county as far as distance learning. We never returned from spring break. So technically, most of us have been sheltering our children, I would assume, right, in some ways since that time. We've never had that enormous exposure where we're coming back, thousands of kids in one school system. So we have not had the chance to really collect data is how I'm looking at it. I understand there is not enough data, but I'm right now, of course, I want to speak emotionally, but I'm speaking simply statistic and logically. Well, we haven't had a chance. Schools haven't returned to know what it will or will not do. So do you feel there is a connection when we say we don't have enough data, the kids don't spread it? Well, we won't know until we know. And I also came across a study, and I wish I had my source ready, but I know a study came out of South Korea where they did track the children, and they indicated that children between 10 to 18 are, if not more, as likable in spreading COVID as any adult. And they had less data on little children. And again, that could simply be because we're shielding and guarding them more. So we haven't really seen the outcome of when you put them in other situations. So because COVID is so novel, do you think the data may not reflect the accuracy of its impact just because we haven't even seen what it would do? It would only be publicized once we know. I was curious of your take on it. Thank you, Dr. Reddy.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, the data is, being a medical doctor, science, and data is pivotal. And unfortunately, we have no good data. And the reason one is that we don't have tests. We don't have quick tests. We don't have enough tests. We haven't been testing everybody that we should be testing. When we talk about asymptomatic adults and children, if we froze today and tested everybody in Florida, yes, we have data and we can control this. But the fact is that that's not the case. Like, we don't know if somebody can be asymptomatic and have COVID, whether an adult or a child. That's number one. Number two, my answer to this would have been very different if we lived in another state. Massachusetts, as an example, the cases are dropping and therefore the return to school is great. Well, Florida reopened. And Vandana, you may have been careful with your social isolation, isolating yourself and your family, but many, many Floridians have not. And I can tell you that the proof is in the pudding, in that in the last 3 weeks, we've seen more cases of COVID in kids than we have since COVID started. Yes, if we had been in lockdown like we were in spring break when everybody was just scared of COVID and it wasn't as rampant in our community, if we carried that level of social isolation to now, we would have been in a great situation. But that's not what happened. Like, the leaders of the state have decided we need to reopen for whatever reason, and we're not going to get into the politics, although I could. And it's spreading. It is. And social distancing is not happening in Florida. And even if it doesn't happen for 25%, let's say, and just throw that number of the population, we're still in trouble. And so I don't know if we're going to have accurate data, because I myself as a pediatrician can't get access to the rapid test because they're being bought out. And so none of the pediatricians have the rapid test. And if you do a send out test, it's taking 3 weeks to come back. How is that going to help the situation in decision making for the parents? So we're stuck in this pickle until we have readily accessible testing. Then we can control this to some degree, and everybody being respectful. When you talk about Europe and other countries and in Asia, the population is pretty respectful of the recommendations, and they are used to kind of living by the rules or recommendations set. We are not. We're more lackadaisical about these recommendations. I mean, I've had people actually, parents ask me if COVID is a made up illness. And it's amazing the amount of misinformation that people believe to be the facts. So it's embarrassing as a scientist to say we don't have data, but it's very little can be done. Your hands are tied as scientists when overall leadership is not guiding where the decisions need to be made.
Thank you, Dr. Reddy. Let's switch over to the academic side a little bit. From Akul's side, the question is, I hear Duval charter schools are offering a virtual plan. What is the Florida virtual school? So Ms. Deepa, you might want to clarify about, whether, are we talking about the Florida Virtual Academy versus Duval charter specifically?
Sorry, I'm just trying to unmute myself. Okay, so Florida Virtual Academy is it's different. Is just like a different program by itself. I think Miss Malika and Vandana did talk about it. So the Florida Charter School, it's the same thing that Duval County is offering. They have 3 options. The first option is going to school. The second is distant learning, and the third option is Florida Virtual School, which is a virtual academy. So if you choose option 3, then you have to withdraw your child from charter school itself. That is the main difference. I don't know what they're calling. I think they're calling distant learning as well for charter school, but I'm not quite sure because each charter school have different programs, but it's more or less the same 3 options. But Florida Virtual School is literally where you have to withdraw the kid from charter school. So if that makes sense, if I answered that question right. Okay. Yes.
Go ahead, Dr. Reddy, you're on mute.
Okay, there you go. A question I get from parents that you teachers can answer for me is if, especially Duval County, if the child is in a magnet school and the parents are deciding to do one of the virtual options, do they lose their position in that magnet school the following school year? Like if they go to Florida Virtual School, let's say.
I can answer this question. So Dr. Reddy, so Dual Virtual Instructional Academy and Florida Virtual both are different. Whereas in DVIA, they are doing from the county. Even though they choose that option, the seat will remind them in the coming next year, 21-22. Whereas in the Florida Virtual, that is not from the county. That is, we are not from the county, so you can't go back to the school. If any student choose the virtual, Florida Virtual is different, DVIA is the different. DVIA, we are doing from the county. Even though they choose the DVIA, they can come back to the next year, the seat will remain for them. But if the student choose the Florida Virtual, that is the completely different program. Those are not from the local teachers. That is a different program. So that is also self-paced learning, but that is totally different from the DVIA.
Okay, so the next question we have here is, what type of mask is safe for children, for kids? Let me guess, Dr. Reddy.
Okay. My parents said I was born the opposite of Prashanti. I'm always talking, so it is it is not different to me. First, it should fit the child well. It should be comfortable. So there's lots of mask options out there. First of all, kids less than 2, you should never ever use a mask on. Okay, period. Less than 2, it's a high risk of suffocation. We do not want you to put a mask on the child. But older than 2, any mask would be fine. It doesn't have to have, it can be a cloth mask. It doesn't have to have a filter. But I would advise against those masks with the valve on it, even for adults. Because that it protects you from breathing other people's germs. But if, say, you have COVID and you don't know, the air you're breathing out of that valve, you could potentially expose somebody else, especially if they don't have a mask on. So I haven't seen very many kids mask with a valve. I have seen the adult ones, but even face shields work just as well too. If your child has a sensory integration issue and can't wear a mask for that reason, then wearing a face shield is another option that they can have. But there's so many different types. There's the bandana types for the little kids so they don't lose the mask. They just pull it over their nose. Just making sure that you don't put extra masks or extra cloth on the masks, because then that will be very uncomfortable for the kids to wear all day long. It should be something that is cloth based.
And right along those lines, there's also another question of whether COVID is airborne. I mean, there's been many theories about this, and the participant wanted to know what your view, Dr. Reddy.
It's transferred by respiratory droplets, right? But we have little respiratory droplets that we're putting out into the air even when we're talking. It's not, I'm not talking about just spit. Like it's when we're talking, we're breathing these respiratory droplets out. So that's where the masks help it. Now there's certain weather and wind, just, depending on that, it can linger around in the air for, depends on what the situation is. If it lands on objects, it can stay on that object. So if a child wipes his nose and mouth and touches the handle, then the next child can pick that up and bring it right to their nose and mouth. So it does not transfer through skin. It transfers through the eyes, nose, and mouth, mostly the nose and mouth. So that's where we need to be careful. That's where we talk about hand washing, not because your hands absorb COVID, but because you are likely to put your hands near your mouth and nose.
But in summary, it is airborne in the sense that if somebody sneezes on us, we are likely to get it.
Right, that's respiratory droplets. So that's the same thing.
Cool. And just a quick reminder to the viewers, please submit your questions and to make sure that we are addressing them. I have one question here. What are some things that we as parents can do to improve the effectiveness of learning, especially when we are talking about distance learning?
So what I can say is, the parents need to remind the students to be more organized. I'm sure that in distant learning, teachers will be having orientation, open house. So even if the parents are there listening to what the teacher has a plan, what the curriculum is, and help your kid to be organized, like, ask questions or note down the questions, because they already would know the challenges they might have faced when they were distant learning during spring. So they can note down all these questions and ask the teacher, like, how are the assessments being done? What should they do if something happens? Like any kind of different scenarios that can happen. So I'm quite sure that the parents will have an opportunity to ask the teachers of how the curriculum is planned and what the kid can do. So please, the parent and the student need to be proactively get organized with these questions and have a plan to get this learning in a more efficient way, is what I would suggest.
That's a wonderful point, Ms. Deepa. You're saying we need to think it through and then make sure that we as parents also are helping the children in effectively learning. That's a wonderful point.
Yes.
You wanted to add something? Sorry. Yeah.
Yes, I'm glad you asked that one, because there are two components I want to talk about. The first one, as a teacher, I think we, and Dr. Reddy brought this up before, that we never know our students' personal situation, what's going on in their lives, right? So that keen empathy is needed, because you want to ensure, because I can say, you didn't log on to this system for 5 days, but I have taught children where they work 40 hours a week sometimes, even though technically they're not allowed to, but in some ways they do. So from a teacher perspective, I think having the empathy, making sure that we regularly communicate with our parents, right? All of those things we want to do. We want to make sure that when we are speaking to our parents, that we hope that they know we're not calling in to complain, but we're calling in to ensure that, that we're here to support you, tell us what you need, and all those great things that, we want to do to ensure there is that smooth, virtual, yet compassionate learning. But from a parent perspective, I think one of the most important things, and I think, Deepa touched on it a little bit, is you want to have a structure. Structure is crucial, whether you have an older child, so laying those expectations, or a younger child who needs you to be there. So one of the most crucial things for a parent, and as adults we're learners too, is to be disciplined. Again, coming back to modeling, structure and discipline is key, because yes, I would love my 5-year-old, or let's say in some of your cases, if you have older children, teenagers, I would love for them to do exactly what we told them. But I mean, if utopia existed, I'd be living in it. You know, it's just impossible. So having that clear expectation set before the school starts, because we're not living in those normal times. And it was really, really hard during the spring, session, teaching kids remotely, because a lot of those students never logged in, but they told their parents they did, or a lot of the kids never had access. They couldn't log in. They had multiple children within the same household and they couldn't get access to a computer. Just a variety of things. So as a parent, I think not hesitating, seeking help, reaching out to teachers, because if I don't know, I cannot help as a teacher, right? So not feeling bad that I'm going to bother a teacher, just ask, seek help, speak to the school. And as a teacher, I think if I'm calling a parent, I hope that they know I tell my kids the very first day I meet them is I'm on their side. I think it's very important that parents and teachers and students know that we're in this together, right? So making sure that every interaction, we cannot make it perfect, but we can make it empathetic, compassionate, kind, understanding, and we never forget that at the end of the day, the burden of responsibility to a large extent falls on us, not the children. So we, at the end of the day, they're not 18 yet, right? So the beauty number doesn't hit a lot of our kids, and we have to be more cautious and do our best we can, I guess. And I have to speak from those children's perspective. I'm on their side because I know it's hard sometimes to take mature decisions. So just, being disciplined, being structured, and reaching out to teachers is the most fundamental way this distant learning would work for our parents. And, and I'm speaking as a parent too, not just as a teacher.
Perfect. That was really valuable, Ms. Vandana, because as you said, we as a parent, if I have to reach out and tell you, hey, I got really bad, really hectic at work today, and I'm not able to monitor my children, I should reach out to you and be very proactive in my communication with you as a teacher, because then you will have more empathy, to your point there. That's invaluable. There's one other question along these lines here from Sirisha Palakuluri Garu. Will elementary kids' schedule be relaxed like in March 2020, or require constant attention by parents throughout the day during school time? Because one thing for sure, I can assure you, out of my own personal experience, I looked away, my 5-year-old ran away, right away. He was not there at the computer. So what sort of expectations are we setting, and how do we work through this together? Any of the teachers, please unmute yourself and respond. Yeah.
Do we know if it's for St. John's or Duval, or anything is fine?
I mean, this is more of a parent. I mean, I think everybody faces the same issues. Okay. There's really no different on the other side of the border. So,
I can at least say from what I understood from the county information that I saw is, see, when it was springtime, and we were trying to do this distant learning and just figure all of this out in 4 days, the expectations was very different. And in our county, we adapted a model of grace over grades because we were all just thrown into it, parents, students, teachers. So we kept the expectations as little or as low as we could. So if I'm a parent, and I'm speaking as a teacher, but I'm also speaking as a parent, we don't want for our children to have compromised education, right? We want them to get the very, very best. And I have a 5-year-old who's going to kindergarten. So I recognize that question, and, but again, I want to make sure that we know with the distant learning model, it's not self-paced. That's what the county is saying, meaning it says that your attendance will be taken. I don't know, again, how they will execute it. But in theory, what they're saying is, to answer the question directly, it's not going to be relaxed, because the idea is to provide them, and I understand that's what the Department of Education is saying, is that our children should receive almost a mirror education when it comes to brick and mortar versus distant learning. So do you have to be there? Yes, because you are expected in some cases, and that would depend on which of the models they're going to choose in the county. Like I said before, there's a synchronized model, and then there's a distant learning model where they're not watching live stuff, but they're expected to come and log into the system at a certain time. So I do think that it's not going to be some whatever. I think they would expect us to deliver good, strong, structured instruction through the day for even younger kids is what my understanding is. And again, more information, you can always check out the website. But to answer the question, you will have to be able to, especially for younger kids, be there for them so they can receive that distant learning and finish everything that needs to be finished in that semester. So you have to be hands-on with
that. And Dr. Reddy, one question for you here. How do we encourage kids with special needs ESS type kids to wear masks? How safe is it to send them to school when they don't like to wear the masks, or for that matter, even hate wearing masks?
Yeah, I mean, kids with special needs, I mean, that's a different category of kids. I think what we've been talking about is kids who don't have a medical exemption for needing to wear a mask. There are kids who have special needs, either developmentally delayed or sensory issues that can't wear a mask. I think you have to look at all of it. You have to look at their school settings and their classroom settings, which may be very different than what we've been talking about here. The number of kids in that classroom and what kind of precautions they're taking. And as a parent, you have to kind of make that decision for, do you feel like that's a safe thing for your child or not? Now, if your child is in an integrated classroom and can't wear a mask, it's so multifactorial. It all depends on how large is the classroom, where is your child going, are they taking the school bus, do you have the option to keep them at home? Is this a special needs child who is dependent on the services at school? These are all factors that you're going to have to weigh, and there's no blanket answer for that. I would say that, reach out to your pediatrician and have that conversation with them. For other kids who are just don't have a medical reason for not wearing a mask but are resistant to wearing a mask, I would pose to you the same question. How do you enforce your child to wear a shirt to go to school? How do you enforce your child to wear shoes to go to school? It's the same concept, right? We just normalize it, and you set the expectation, and you have to reinforce it over and over and over again. You set the example. I hope you don't go to the store without a shirt on. And so they pick up on that, and they understand the importance of that. And if you present it with a stern way, majority of kids will adapt to it. It's the same way. It's just part of parenting, how we teach our kids to brush their teeth. Of course, if they had a choice, they would be resistant to it. But it's this expectation that we set, and it's just constant follow through and making sure that we're reinforcing the importance of this. And eventually they will wear it. And that is for most kids who don't have special needs. If they're developmentally delayed or there are other medical issues, then that's a different can of worms.
Good point. Thank you. There was also a sort of a follow-up question on that. How are school districts planning to cope with ESS kids? Do we have any idea, or is it one of the multiple things which are still fluid? Ms. Deepa, maybe?
Yeah, so I think the county will have to come up with a plan on how those particular kids would be helped. So when I was a teacher, we always used to have a ESE teacher pull out those kids, and they were taken in a separate room where this teacher would be a support and help these students. I think very similar situation may happen, though we have not gone into detail to find out what the plan is, but I'm 100% sure that they will have specific guidelines and ESE support to help these kids because they have this freedom to take those students and teach them to a different environment if things don't work. But as far as guidelines are concerned, what they have come up with, I have no idea. I mean, I'm definitely sure that if you go to the website, there might be some information on that in those areas for ESE education.
Thank you. That was nice. There's one question here from Yuva. Just trying to find it. Just 1 second, please. So in the end, we have all of this going on. That's all good. How many kids are we expecting in the classroom? Will there be 20 children in a class and one assigned teacher, or will there be 10 in person and 10 online? How are class assignments and teacher assignments being made this year? Anyway, you're good. You can answer still.
So I think it all depends on the data. It all depends on what the parents choose. I know for St. John's County, the classroom sizes are going to be very small because what I've heard from other parents, most of them have picked option 2. So I believe the classroom sizes are going to be small for students who choose to go to the school. So I think it all depends on the data that comes out and how the school, specific school, I think different schools might be having different ways to plan out on how that's going to work. You all have to wait for that. It's too early to say how the class size are going to be online and going to school.
Ms. Vanna, do you want to add something? Yeah.
Yes, I wanted to say something about the prior question. If we look at the FAQs, which I do ask if you're in the St. Johns County School District or if your child goes to the St. Johns County School District, the FAQs address some of those, those common questions. And I posted a link earlier on this chat that they can go directly to and find that. But one thing I wanted to say, in case you have a younger child, a VPK child, it says, and I quote from the FAQs, that distant learning is not an option for students enrolled as a VPK student. VPK students are only permitted to participate in person via a brick and mortar school setting. And then it allows you to kind of contact the right person for more information. So if you are listening in and you have a much younger child, a VPK child for this county, I just wanted to say that. And let me also say that for ESE students, it said, can they choose distance learning? The answer was yes, but if they require ESE services, I understand that their case managers will create, figure out a plan to offer those services, because the state and the Department of Education mandates that we, regardless whether we're in person or online, that we do provide the services that are laid out in the state statute. So, if you are somebody who has a child and you're not comfortable sending them, I cannot guarantee anything. I don't know, but I know in my heart that schools, the administration, the teachers, everybody wants to do the right thing by you and provide you those services given the specific circumstances, to ensure that your child is not unfairly disadvantaged, I guess is what I was trying to insinuate.
Ms. Malika, I actually have a question here for somebody who is walking into kindergarten, has not really participated in an official classroom setting, except maybe a little bit of VPK at that. Is there any cheat sheet for somebody who's going into virtual school for the first time? Because, as such, they're not used to this.
So you're talking about the who are going the first time the home learning?
First time, yeah. First time walking into a classroom and then they find themselves virtual. I can only empathize with that child. So any cues, or anybody else also? I don't want to put you on the spot there, but what could we do as parents to help children who find themselves in this sort of situation?
Just to clarify, when they ask this question, they mean virtual school, or are they talking about distance learning?
Virtual. I believe they're talking about virtual.
Okay.
Yeah, I asked about virtual. Okay. Because like in VPK, he didn't had any virtual experience there, because it was totally just like assignment they gave. So he doesn't have any virtual experience at all. So just wanted to ask on basis of that.
So the distant learning model is obviously where they will still be able to have those connections, and for the first time, I know it will be. But Dr. Reddy, I think said something earlier, which I think it's a good time right now to think about it one more time. Our children, even at as little as our itty bitty VPK and kindergartners, they are way more comfortable and used to these phones and computers than we are. Does that make sense? So they are by default, that's them living normally, right? So it's not even as a kindergartner, and I can speak to that only because, of course, I also have a child going into kindergarten. Whether virtual or distant learning, I think the thing is maybe to ensure that we do participate in every activity laid out, because I'm sure some of those are supposed to be where they can feel the connection, where they're participating with other students, where they still have that virtual communication taking place. It's a classroom, if that makes sense. So again, I know as a parent, our heart is just, it's bothersome to say, oh, my student is going into this virtual environment for the first time. But just, I think what gives me comfort is they FaceTime all the time, they chat with people all the time. And many of our community, if I speak just our community per se, a lot of our families are abroad, they live elsewhere. So we have that just constant comfort with speaking to people from a distance. And so I do think here is a good time. This might be in our advantage from a community standpoint because we're so used to it. So I mean, there is no, I guess there is no cheat sheet per se that I have come across, but I do think maybe speaking to other parents who have children going virtual, or maybe kids who have attended a virtual setting before, maybe just kind of calibrating, reaching out, those are some of them. And this is one such platforms, and I'm grateful for it. But I'm just thinking, I'm not sure.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
No,
Maybe I want to add something to Vandana. So any students, especially who are doing first time virtually, so any students, not only first time, so any students, so who are doing the virtually, so strongly recommending the parents, they need to involve most of the time. So what they are doing, so contact with the teachers and talking with the students, how they are learning, what they learn on this specific day. So talking with the teacher and talking with the students and involving in some most of the time, because I had a bad experience in the last March to May. So even after finishing the 1 month of in the middle schoolers, even especially in the 8th grader, they know everything, even though they know everything. So after finishing the Duval, homeroom, after 1 month, until I called the parents, so I was so surprised. They are saying, okay, I don't know anything. I don't know how to log in, how to get in the Teams. That's what I got these so much different answers. So especially in the kindergarten, or who are doing in the VP, from VPK to kindergarten, so public schools, so that is the first time. So usually they are going to the public schools, the teacher will interact with the most of the time in the classrooms. So when if they are doing the virtual, so the parents need to take the place. So they need to talk with the teachers, get the instructions, they need to help the student in the home. That's what I mean. I thought, okay, so parents involvement is a more effective way the students are doing any homeroom. So even though that is not a kindergarten, even though there is a high school or any middle school, is also based on the students. I'm not talking about any student. So based on the students, so the parents, most of the time, they need to interact with the teachers as well as the students while they're enrolled.
That's a wonderful point, Ms. Malika, that especially for those who are struggling or who are going into virtual learning for the first time, parent involvement and encouragement is essential.
Yeah, because some students feels more shy to talk with the teachers or in front of any other students. While they're doing the homeroom, so most of the other students also will be in the team. So sometimes the students will feel shy to talk in front of, even though they didn't understand, they have any questions, they feel very shy to talk with in front of the other students. So at that time, parents has to take the place.
Makes sense. Dr.
Can chime in? Yeah, I just have give my 2 cents about this. I think it was Shweta that asked that question, but I think the answer is, Shweta, you're going to kindergarten. That's the answer, because essentially what I encourage every parent of every child, regardless of age, if you're doing the virtual option, is to treat the school day like a school day. You know, have the child get up at the same time, even if they're doing flexible based scheduling. You make sure that your child is getting up at the same time, having breakfast at the same time, as if they're going to school. Have a dedicated space that you call it the classroom, and have it protected, that the child is away from any distractions. It's very, very important. And keep the structure throughout the day. And now for a kindergartner, the mom is going to have to sit there and kind of monitor and make sure that the child is doing everything on time. Have lunch, you know, pack lunch in the morning as if the child is going to school. You know, spend that time during lunch hour eating lunch, and not, you know, doing other chores around the house. But that structure and making sure you treat it just like you would a school day is really, really important. And that's what's going to give the child this separation, that this is not a choice. This is something that I'm attending school. It's virtual, so it's different in our heads, but it doesn't have to be for the kids. They're used to the virtual platform, as Vandana said. So if you treat it like a school structured day, then that's the best way. For kindergartners, you have to sit with them. Now for middle and high school kids, absolutely the same thing. They need to have the dedicated space. But there is, I like to reference parents to a great TED talk called Agile Parenting. I can send the link. But it is strength-based parenting. It is about feedback that you get from your child about what can I do as a home teacher to make your education better, and you giving feedback to your child, what can you do you know, to improve yourself as a student. Let's set an agenda for the week for the classroom. Just like if you're in a classroom, to this week, we're going to learn about honesty. You know, as a family, you can bring that into your weekly meeting. This is going to be the agenda for the week. And it gives that opportunity, kids an opportunity to weigh in on their educational process, to give you feedback as a parent, which is not something we ask for from kids often enough. And it kind of empowers them. And it takes the stress off of this, you know, this lack of structure that virtual school seems to come with. So it's a great TED Talk. I saw Naveen put that there in the link. But I encourage all parents to listen to it. It'll give you guidelines as to how to structure it.
Perfect. Thank you so much. In the interest of time, there's one question. I think we have time for one more question. And this is actually a very nicely worded one also, I would say. Okay, we heard about all this. Is it safe to send the healthy kid to a brick and mortar school? Assuming the kid is going to follow social distancing, wear face mask, and, you know, whatever is required. In the end, is it safe or not? And I would like actually every one of you to share your perspective on this part as we wrap up. Dr. Reddy, I think you're going to be first.
Okay. Okay, I've been voluntold. For the most part, for healthy kids, yes, it is safe to send them to brick and mortar. However, I would say be cautious in that it is not going to be 100% brick and mortar. I anticipate the schools are going to close, or classrooms are going to close intermittently. And I don't want parents to be in a chaos when that happens. I think that you should plan. And nobody knows your child better than you, so it's an individual decision. But for the most part, we know kids learn better face-to-face. I mean, that's just a fact. So if that's an option for you, that is definitely one to consider.
Educate the kids. The parents has to educate the kids how to behave.
Ms. Deepa, do you want to go next?
Sure. So as a parent, I have picked option 1 for my son. He is in Nice High School. He's going to 10th grade, but that was just a personal choice. He's a healthy kid. Even though he's tech savvy, I know he can do awesome doing distant learning, but he's going to IB, and I wasn't sure if all the courses are going to be given to him in distant learning or not. And also knowing my son's personality, it would benefit him going to school. I think he's matured enough to follow the guidelines. He knows it's a norm now. I think it's going to benefit him just knowing his personality. So I'm kind of confident. Maybe I don't know what's going to happen in the coming weeks after he goes to school, but you know, we have made a decision of sending you know, my son to the brick and mortar option. So
Ms. Malika, Ms. Holler, whoever goes next.
Definitely the face-to-face instructions is the best option for any students. But if, so for healthy students, this is completely parents' personal choice based on their student personality. So, but if the parents wants to send any healthy kids, okay, they want to give any face-to-face instructions to their children. So before going to schools, maybe they need to give the proper instructions, wearing the mask all the time. So what is the consequences, and you need to sanitize and you need to wash whenever it is possible in the school. So you need to follow the teacher instructions. So proper guidance is very important from the parent, because parents know about their children from anybody else. So how they are moving. So even though the teachers know about them, how they are doing, how they are behaving, how much they have, but parents know about any children, any students more than anybody else. So before giving any going to the face-to-face instructions, so they need to give any proper guidelines to the student. So this is the best option for any, I mean, even though this any situation, so we can say as a teacher or any parent, I can say face-to-face instructions is always the best options.
I think everybody that did such a good job in summing it up. One quick thing I wanted to say, you know, like before me, everybody indicated each parent will have to decide what's best for their child, what kind of learner are they, what's their personal situation, their household needs, etc. But I will say, to Dr. Reddy's point earlier, we are working with a plan, and as we know, plans are not set in stone. So it could be where we all open, but it suddenly things shut down or anything like that. So kind of being prepared for the unknown is also essential. Also, as a teacher and as a parent, I will definitely at least urge, if you are listening today, you know, just so we are joining hands with our students and our kids, our respective, you know, children, we want to show our support. So if you would attend the open house that, you know, schools will put out, that's all happening virtually. And, you know, in person, especially I teach high school, it's very rare that parents come, you know, because they have, their children are grown enough to do the right thing. But I'm just saying, maybe attending the open house, knowing the plan, reaching out to the teachers, getting the information, just so we can support our children while they do whichever option, you know, that we're choosing for them to participate in, that we show them that we're here, we're supportive. So attending maybe the open house, etc., will be a good way to know what direction you want to take. And also there are more school board meetings happening. I know there is a St. Johns County one on July 28th, which is Tuesday. So if your child goes to the county, it's at 4 p.m. and 5:30 p.m., which will probably give you more information to make a more informed decision, should or should not this child, you know, or my child, should they go to school or not. So just keeping our eye out on the ever-changing information to make a good decision, you know, the decision that we can make given the circumstances. So just wanted to bring that up, you know, just kind of keeping ourselves informed so then we can help make a good informed decision for our children.
Here, I have one question, Vandana. So you're talking about the July 20th is the open house in the St. Johns County or orientation?
No. July 28th is a special meeting that the St. Johns County School Board has called. They've been doing this virtual, you know, like a town hall, but like a board meeting. So I have been tuning in every time they've done it, because you can hear other parents, what they are saying. You can hear what the board is deciding. You can see, you know, what their decisions are and why they're making those decisions. So just knowing that, because let's say between now and, because schools don't open until the 20th, right? Even for teachers, and then not until the 31st for our students. A lot can change between now and then. So today I might say I'm going to send my child to a brick or mortar school, or I might say I'm keeping them home. But let's say things change drastically between now and August 31st. It's nice to be able to know what's happening and then make an informed decision. And then when open house or any kind of parent-teacher meeting is situated or announced, to keep our eyes out, ears out, and attend those. So, we can know whatever our decision is, how to support our children this school year, which I am sure will be plenty full of surprises. So I was thinking that would be a good way to continuously assess, because things can change. Things are changing every day, So,
okay. So after attending the session, so the parents can have any chance to change their options in St. John's County?
So technically, they set a deadline, right? And I'm sure deadlines are what they say they are. You're supposed to meet them. But at the same time, I am sure, and I can only speak to St. John's County because I've attended those meetings, I feel that the people, the superintendent, the other people, children's best interest is what they are keeping in the center of these discussions. So if as a parent, your child suddenly needs something different, I'm sure there is a deadline, and I'm sure they would want us to meet those deadlines so they can make good decisions when it comes to planning. But if it's a certain situation, I would certainly ask the school or reach out to the guidance counselors and make sure that, we do what's best for the children, because at the end of the day, my child is most important to me, and I assume it's the same for everybody. Nothing else matters as much as their health and well-being. So I would say don't hesitate to call, ask, reach out. They are there to answer our questions, and I'm going to ask them because it's important to support my kids and their health, So just keep ourselves informed, I think, is the most important thing.
Thank you.
Perfect way of ending it, Ms. Vandana. That was truly heartfelt and totally agree with you. I would like to, in conclusion, we are past our 6 o'clock time. So I would like to wrap it up a little bit. It was indeed definitely a great discussion, and heartfelt thanks to all the panelists. A lot of planning and behind the scenes meetings have gone into this whole process. And I really, really, really thank the panelists for doing what they're doing. As Dr. Reddy mentioned, it's ominous that we even have, it's a representative of the fluid situation we are in. And it's ominous that we are even contemplating shutting down schools again. God forbid something happens, then if the cases go up, then we might have to shut things down. So we have to be very, very vigilant about what our options are as parents. And I'd also like to express a heartfelt thank you to all the teachers. You are now part of the first responder line, I would say. As such, in March, I would say, teachers are good, but then in March, all of us parents gained an entirely new level of respect for teachers as we started looking at, trying to teach our kids at home, and totally unenviable situation. But now you're doing that and exposing yourself to all the first responder type risks, and you have our heartfelt gratitude for that. Having said that, we have to be vigilant, and we in TAJA are committed to do what is required for the community and present the best resources possible to help us make the best decisions for us as families. So in that strain of thought, we are thinking about an additional session, maybe in time, so that we can make the best decision for the next grading period. But stay tuned for that. And also Naveen has brought up a set of events that we have planned coming up. Paparao Garu, would you like to talk about this? Or Naveen, did you want to talk?
Sure, I can cover that if Paparao Garu is not there.
Yeah, you can go ahead, Naveen.
Okay. All right. Thank you everyone for your participation today. And for our upcoming events, the main ones we are looking at immediately are we do have a TAJA musical night coming up. That would be on August 8th. And we are also planning something fun for the kids for the Ganesha festival that's coming up. Make my own Ganesha with clay. And for all the parents with the high school kids at home, there is going to be a fun-filled, interactive TAJA Entrepreneurs Workshop that we are going to conduct in a similar setting where we have handpicked a few from our community and from within our reach who are willing to share their knowledge and maybe motivate our community. We might have the next entrepreneur sitting right next to us. So that is something that's aimed at. That's on August 22nd. So definitely August is going to be busy with some events planned out. With that being said, once again, a big round of applause and thank you for all our wonderful panelists for taking your time off on a Sunday afternoon. And a big thank you to our sponsors, Dave Mason. He had sent his information in the chat. For Mathnasium, if you want to reach out, you can reach out to him, and also to Rinku Patel from Fountain of Beauty. With that being said, thank you everyone once again. Have a great Sunday and a great week. Thank you.